The book that I'm going to discuss today, it's called Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. He was an emperor in ancient Rome, which would tell you that the book is really, really old. And he was also a Stoic philosopher. Now, Stoicism as a philosophy is itself quite interesting, and it should be discussed separately, and which I will at some point. Many Western readers, they relate Stoicism with Buddhism in some ways, and there are certain similarities. But we won't get into the details as of now. Let's just come back to the book. This book is really about a man having a conversation with himself, guiding himself, teaching himself things which he ought to learn. So in some ways, it's really a private diary. But ever since people discovered it, it has been immensely popular. And there are a couple of things which make it truly special. In fact, these are the two things which make any religious book, if you take, they are special for the same reason. One, they give you extremely valuable advice in a very simple form. And two, the language in these books is usually poetic, and reading them is kind of a meditative experience. And this book, which itself is called Meditations, is truly meditation in some ways. That's why I would suggest you to read the book and read it slowly, one day at a time, taking one lesson away from the book. And then you'll see how you'll have a wonderful, wonderful experience with the book. About the first part, about the advices that are given in this book, that part is somewhat I'm going to take care of today. I'm going to tell you and discuss these advices, which sound simple, but you would know that we need these advices repeatedly in our lives. Something that religions, once again, they do this. They keep telling us the same things over and over again because we need them. So let's see what Marcus Aurelius has advised us. He starts by saying that you should not let other people's unkindness disturb you. And you see this often. We are good to people as long as they are good to us. And the moment we receive some kind of bad treatment or criticism, then we stop being good to them. But Aurelius says that we need to remind ourselves that if somebody is not being nice to us, it's probably because of two reasons. One is that they are right and we are wrong. In that case, we need to correct ourselves and listen to them. And in other case, probably they are wrong and are making a mistake in their judgment, in which case we need to forgive them. And if we are going to correct them, we need to do that affectionately. Otherwise, it doesn't really help. The next advice is, he tells us that everything that we see is an interpretation. And he says that while literally it may not be true in all the cases, but it's a good lesson to have in practical situations. So he tells us that whatever is happening outside us, let's say if it is raining or some disaster is taking place, how we perceive it or the kind of emotions we have in our minds is as much dependent on us as it is on the external factors. And this is the lesson that we'll try to learn through meditation. That we work on ourselves. We prepare ourselves for situations where we have no control and we are struggling. And even then, we can keep our mind at peace. The next lesson that he tells us is that our mind, it should be at a superior position to our body and the sensations that are there in the body. So he tells us that whatever we feel, whether it's a feeling of pain or pleasure, all the things that we feel, all the sensations that we have in our body, we should not give in to these sensations, these feelings, and stay mindful. We should be mindful of what we are going to do, what actions we are going to take, and all these things, these sensations should not affect our rational faculty. So, on one side, while he's talking about this spiritual approach, he's also guiding us to lead a good social life, which sometimes we forget while practicing spirituality. He's asking us to not retreat from the world. And we should be mindful of the fact that we need other people. It's only through cooperation can we achieve something, can we achieve even happiness. Then there is a beautiful sentence that he writes. He says, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." So Marcus Aurelius is reminding us that maybe other people's opinions matter, but they don't matter as much as your own opinion does. But that does not mean that we don't listen to others. In fact, he says that we should be open to correction. And being able to criticism and being able to correct ourselves, it's a wonderful gift to have. And we should value it, and we should learn to develop this quality. Then he talks something profound that is quite valid in today's internet world. He tells us to cherish the freedom and liberty of everyone, that we should endure the freedom of expression of other people. And even if it is offensive to us, we should encourage the freedom in others. And he tells us to deal with an obstacle or something difficult in our lives. He asks us not to complain, but to find the way. So he tells us if something bad happens, just say, "Good, what new opportunities does this open up?" And while this may sound quite romantic and optimistic, he has his reasons for this. He says this is so because adversity is part of nature. We are never going to have an ideal world. We are never going to have perfect situations. So it's better we find a way through this and become stronger along the way. Then he talks about this idea which is quite popular in Eastern philosophy, which is that everything has happened before. So in his words, he says, "In all that happens, keep before your eyes those who experienced it before you and felt shock and outrage and resentment at it. And now, where are they? Nowhere. Is that what you want to be like? Instead of avoiding all these distracting assaults, leaving the alarms and flights to others, and concentrating on what you can do with it all. Because you can use it, treat it as a raw material. Just pay attention and resolve to live up to your own expectations in everything. And when faced with a choice, remember, our business is with things that really matter." So that's the lesson here. Focus on the things that truly matter. And you see, this is very practical and helps us in dealing with situations which are right in front of us, rather than contemplating about probably the worries of the future. Then he talks about another interesting Eastern philosophy part, which is something you find in Bhagavad Gita also, that you should do your duty and be able to face the resistance that you're going to get. But you need to be clear in your mind what you're going to do, and should not shy away from your responsibilities, because he says life is really short and death, it comes to all of us, and therefore the time for any action, it's right now. He also encourages us to go a bit deeper into things, to understand things, and we should look at things what they truly are. So he says we spend a lot of time trying to impress others, trying to win the praises from others. But then he says, do you wish to be praised by a man who curses himself 3 times every hour? And do you wish to please a man who doesn't please himself? In other words, we need to be clear in our heads what we truly want. And if only we can get rid of our emotions, our fears, then it becomes easy to see. And then he has an interesting advice on wealth. He says that we should recognize that material wealth, it's neither good nor an evil. And we should treat these things as things, that's all, period. So he says, treat what you don't have as non-existent and look at what you have, the things you value most, and think of how much you would crave them if you didn't have them. But at the same time, be careful. Don't feel such satisfaction that you start to overvalue them, that it would upset you if you lost them. So he's asking us to express our gratitude. Whatever we have, just be grateful. And finally, he says that we need to stop talking about what the good man is like and just be one. So once again, the idea is to do things and do them right now. So I've discussed all these lessons, but I don't think I can or anybody can do a fair job in that. Which is why you have to read the book. And as I said, you have to read it very slowly, absorbing one lesson at a time. And I can promise you that if you take away these lessons and if you are dealing with a difficult situation in your life, you are going to be reminded of these lessons very frequently. And they'll help you going through these situations as they have helped countless other people in history and in our times. So I really hope you'll have a good time reading this book.